Heard earlier from Senator Bob Bennett from Utah when he was talking about the doc fix. We are lucky enough to be able to grab him in Capitol Hill now. Senator Bennett, great to see you. Thank you very much. We just played, for your information, the sound from earlier in the evening when you were mentioning hearing on the radio that the doc fix had been implemented by the House. Now, the doc fix, we should mention, passed by the House. We should mention that that would add about $200 billion or more to the bill, and that would make it a budget buster. Is there any chance that that could be slipped into the Senate version?
Oh, no. They do that entirely separately, and that's the way they keep the Senate version budget neutral. If you pass a separate bill that has nothing to do with this bill, that raises the debt $200 billion, you can't blame this bill for raising the debt $200 billion. You say they're two separate events. But they're clearly not two separate events. That's just part of the smoke and mirrors that's going into this whole debate.
Let me just explain, though, because I think it's worthwhile. A lot of people don't realize how complex this lawmaking is. So even though the Senate has a bill that is assuming that there is no doctor fix, the House already has passed this thing. So that Senate assumption makes it a budget buster right now. The CBO figures are null and void.
Exactly. Well, they're not null and void for scoring purposes because the CBO can only score a bill within the four corners of the bill. They can't reach outside of one bill and say, yeah, but you've broken the budget with another one. So that will allow the Democrats to continue to say, well, this bill remains budget neutral or maybe even a little bit plus. And you say, but wait a minute, you've passed a separate bill aside from, well, we can't count that in the accounting for this bill. That's the smoke and mirrors that's going on.
Do you think, Senator, that people, the American people, have an adequate understanding of how much smoke and mirrors there is going on in crafting this thing?
I'm not sure they have the details right, but they certainly have a sense of smell about how badly this thing is put together. And the big news today, of course, that was on the floor was the David Broder column. Right. David Broder, not notoriously known as a Republican, who described this as a budget buster and went through this. And it's very interesting that after Broder went through it and was very specific about it, Harry Reid came on the floor in a personal attack on Broder rather than an answer to the
Really?
specifics.
I had actually missed that personal attack.
Yeah.
We should mention, by the way, that the significance of that column was it focused on the fact that only 16% of the American public believe the president will keep his promise to make this a budget, 19%, to keep it budget neutral. So most people don't believe that promise.
Well, the other part of it was that overwhelmingly Republicans are opposed to it, but independent voters just as overwhelmingly are opposed to it, and even a majority of Democrats are opposed to it. The margins among Democrats are not as great as they are in the other two groups. But that means if you are a Democrat up for re-election in 2010 and you have anything like a balanced electorate, if you're coming from a state where the independents are the balance of power, as they were in both Virginia and New Jersey in this last election, you've got real problems if you support this bill in its final form. And yes, they can go home and say, as Blanche Lincoln said on the floor, this doesn't mean I'm supporting the bill. This just means I'm ready to go on with the debate. But when the final vote comes, if the final outcome is 60-40 as well, you're going to see some Democrats lose their seats over this. And I'm sure you're going to see a lot of Democrats lose their seats over this on the House side because the support for the bill, the support for the president's program was sky high back in February and March. And it has been coming down and coming down and coming down. And now it's underwater and the trend is continuing. And that's something I think every Democrat ought to be concerned about.
Senator Bob Bennett, the man with the green eye shades in the Senate because he knows accounting very well. Good to see you, Senator. Thank you very much. We got to leave it at that. Betsy McCoy, thank you so much for